Good morning, everybody. It's Orlando Sanchez and the famous Andrea Gomez.
Buenos días a todos. Bienvenidos a nuestro Facebook Live, como todos los miércoles, TLC Live. How are you, Orlando? How you been?
I'm doing good. I just got back from South Texas, and I've enjoyed some beautiful weather in Texas. Today's a gorgeous day, and I got to drive from nearly the Big Bend to the Coastal Bend. I really enjoyed it. So it's good to be back in Houston, and I understand we're going to have a fantastic program today.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. We've been looking for this for a couple of weeks, and finally it's happening.
Yeah, we're very fortunate because it's very difficult to find stars like the gentleman we're going to have on. So I'm really looking forward to the program. But again, this is our weekly Facebook Live on Texas Latino Conservatives. And just for the benefit of those that may be joining us the first time, Texas Latino Conservatives is a general purpose political action committee in Texas, and we focus on the Latino community. Our main message is to always vote and vote your values. Obviously, we believe in the conservative principles of our culture, which are the conservative principles of North America.
Our values.
Our values. And we try not to tell you what party to vote for, but if you vote conservative, we think the overwhelming number of conservative candidates are on one particular side of the aisle, but we're going to let you decide that. I always let everybody know because I'm for full disclosure. I'm an immigrant, I'm Catholic, I'm conservative, and I'm a Republican when I run for office, but you can make your own decisions. We also have a 501c4 nonprofit organization where we do educate and help cultivate the next crop of young Latino conservatives in Texas. And so you can imagine how thrilled we were when we managed to be able to convince and cajole, and frankly, we're very honored to have the guest that we have today. So I'm going to turn it over to Andrea, who's been instrumental in getting this young man on the program.
So today we're going to have a special guest, and people knows him as a famous rapper. He is also a producer. He is a comedian, but he is a very important person in the Latin American community, Americano Latino, de descendiente mexicano. And he was born in Houston, and his real name is Pedro Herrera III.
El tercero.
El tercero. La tercera generación de los Pedros Herreras.
We got to ask him how many Pedritos there were, and who they
Y
were.
además, his family used to have one of the best tamales in town.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
They were made in tamales. They were tamales truck.
We're going to have to debate whether Mexican tamales are better than Cuban tamales.
Exactly.
Okay.
So before we go straight with him, we're going to hear one of the clips that he has in his YouTube channel, and he's very viral in all his social media. And this clip went viral last year because he was talking about elections and his values and all of these things. So let's see.
And politics, right?
And politics, of course.
He jumps into stuff that you should avoid, right?
Yeah.
Religion and politics.
Correct. So Pedro Herrera III, most known as Chingo Bling. This is the clip.
Y'all pick. You know what I'm saying? I can go on and on. Second Amendment. I'm from Texas. O'Rourke, who's a Democrat.
All right. So there you have it. That's the clip.
Oh my God, so powerful. And especially, what do you feel when he said Cuba?
Well, he's correct. He's absolutely correct. And we wouldn't have those freedoms. And I like the fact that he's talking about the contributions that immigrants make in this country because, as you know, both of us are immigrants. So he's spot on. He's absolutely spot on. And so I think Chingo's on. So if we can get him up, we can have a conversation with him.
Chingo Bling, Pedro Herrera III. Buenos dias.
Okay, well, we've lost him. So
we lost him. Okay.
Maybe he can call back.
He was.
There he is. He's
there
on.
He is.
Can you hear us?
He's walking around
Chingo?
the house. You hear us?
Okay.
Okay, we're trying
to get him back up. So, yeah, and he's the pride of Houston. He obviously is from Houston, Texas, and has been very successful, which shows how prolific Houston is in terms of the arts world. But what I like about it is that he's brave. He talks.
Oh yeah.
Not only is he a great comedian and he's a great rapper, but he's also very brave in delving into issues that are very important in our community. And a lot of, folks with fame and fortune sort of avoid that. I mean, occasionally, you'll get some comedians that on TV and they want to make fun of politicians. Mm-hmm. But I'm thinking he is hitting the important issues of the day. I mean, when he talks about freedom of speech and that you don't have that in other countries, and the fact that we should be free to speak about whatever and lay it out and let people make decisions, and then goes right into a constitutional protection, which is the Second Amendment, obviously being from, as he says, being from Texas. He likes his ability to protect himself and his family, right? And so I like that. I think it shows how brave the Chingo is.
I think we have him again. Let's see if we cannot hear him. Oh, Chingo, you need to unmute yourself. I think you were in mute. Let's see. You need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, he's muted on his end.
You need to go to, down on the menu and just unmute yourself. Because we see you, but we don't hear you. And the system say that you mute yourself.
Okay, he's going to try to figure that unmuting button out, and
or if you want to call back, maybe. Oh my God, we have him right before the show.
Yeah. Well, you should have never let him go.
We're so excited having him on the show, and I don't know, Orlando, if you went to his playlist and listened to his music, and I was like, this morning, I woke up 5 a.m. and I was listening to rap, his music at 5 a.m. And it's just so him. It's so his history, his background, his family. He has one rap that is talking about the tamales. I don't make tamales anymore or something like that. It's called, but it's so amazing. And his story, it's unbelievable. And he's going to have, okay, I'm getting a text. You can talk. I'm getting a text from his manager.
Yeah, so speaking of that, Andrea says he was listening to his rap music this morning at 5 a.m. Obviously, I was driving in from South Texas this weekend, and I went through a border checkpoint, and I was watching some of Chingo's clips on YouTube, and they're absolutely hilarious. If you hadn't had an opportunity to go check out Chingo Bling on YouTube, please do it. It'll have you in stitches laughing. But one of his presentations on stage was the fact that when he goes through the border checkpoint, they're Mexican Americans asking Mexican Americans are U.S. citizens. He says Mexicanos chasing Mexicanos. And then he talks about how the Border Patrol obviously wants to interdict on drugs and criminal activity. So they llaman al perro, tráeme el guau guau. It was just hilarious how he talks about it, because that's exactly we go through at border checkpoints along the Rio Grande River.
And he's now having a podcast, and he talks about politics in the podcast. And he is also doing presentations, and it's coming up. One of the presentations is coming up in February, I think it's 6 or 7, and it's going to be in Florida. So we have him now? Okay, perfect. So finally, Chingo Bling here in the Texas Latino Conservatives. Welcome.
Hey, I think the powers that be are trying to sabotage this interview.
No kidding.
Those platforms are hell, aren't they, Chingo?
Yeah, man. We all we did was give big tech more and more power. It seems like soon we're gonna have to have two internets.
Right.
We need to
We're
create
gonna have
our own media.
yeah.
So listen, it's a great honor to have you, and I'm sure I don't know if you watched the first part of the program. We're a conservative political action committee, and our purpose, Chingo, is to encourage Latinos to participate in the political process, and that's our mission. And when we heard about you, and of course been following you for a long time, and in my opinion, you became a bold leader in the community, talking about important issues that are important to all of us as Texans, as Tejanos, as immigrants. It really struck a chord with me, and I said to Andrea one day, I said, "Man, I sure would like to have Chingo Bling on our program, but he's such a rock star. I doubt we'll get him." And here you are. So thank you.
And I reached out to you in Instagram and I was, hello, 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 please respond to me. But thank you for your time.
There's a little bit of echo when I talk, but I'll make it do what it do.
Okay, buddy. We'll work on the echo. Obviously, this is all new technology, and we hope we fixed it. But listen, let me talk a little bit about your background. Let's start with a bio. I know everybody in Houston knows who you are in Texas and probably around the country. But for those that are watching you for the first time, tell us a little bit about where you're from and how did you get into rapping, and then how did you develop your comedic stage presentations? Are absolutely hilarious.
Thank you. So I'm a Mexican American from Houston, first generation. I got into show business around the age 21, and I started noticing that every 4 years, immigrants were being scapegoated by the media. I started noticing that politicians wanted to speak Spanish to us every 4 years. I wasn't that into politics in the past, so I just kind of went along with the narrative of Democrats are for la raza, Republicans are old white conservative, racist, greedy, old white men. And that was the summary they just kind of gave us. And I fell for it for many years. And I was also a part of that group of Latin entertainers that they always would tap into, like, hey, we need you at this rally. We need you to help us get get the vote out. We need you to make a PSA and so on. But around about a year and a half ago, I started to stumble across different voices, different conservative voices on the internet. I started seeing things debunked, started seeing the media is a little dishonest and how they were persuading us and manipulating headlines and how it was just all clickbait. And then my attitude towards Donald Trump started to shift because at first I was like everyone else. I had TDS, I had Trump derangement syndrome. Yeah, I had a really bad case of it. I even made shirts and hats and koozies that were like, F Donald Trump, he disrespected La Raza and all this stuff. But once I started seeing that he really didn't call Nazis fine people, he really didn't say drink bleach, a lot of this stuff were really just hoaxes. And during the first impeachment, I was like, what is this quid pro quo, Burisma, Hunter Biden, Ukraine crap? And what did Trump do now, this reality TV star guy? And little by little, I started seeing, wait a minute, he was trying to investigate something that was in the best interest of the American people. And that's when my views started to shift, when I started to get cured of my TDS and I started to see the nuance and how things weren't so black and white. And then this year, during the pandemic and the lockdown, we saw cities on fire all summer, different movements. You had Antifa, you had all this stuff going on, videos circulating out of context. They're trying to make martyrs out of different people. There's this narrative that all white men are evil. We're all victims and it's the white man's fault. And it's okay if these people burn down cities. Well, that's why this year I, quote unquote, joined the dark side. That's what the Democrats call it, right? So I started being called a traitor, a coconut, a Chingo Bling. Yeah, I want to be something about somehow, some way, people think they're mind readers and they think that I want to be white. When really it's like, I like law and order. I like being able to go to church. I like my freedom of speech. I've always been outspoken. I've never been a Hollywood darling that go with the official narrative. I've always been rebellious, and I took the stance because I felt that it was time to wake my people up and see that this victim narrative and this blame game that we play, it's not productive. um Think about it. If you persuade the masses that everything is about race, 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 all they have to do is align themselves as the diverse, as the empathetic to the downtrodden, and the other side are the racist, Trumpy, Trumper, Nazi, hateful, divisive people, right? Well, it's worked like a charm on my people because a lot of my people see me as a traitor now. But I think in due time, all of these conversations and all of these interviews, they may not make sense to people today, but maybe 4 years from now or 10 years from now, we play the long game. So I think they'll look back at these clips and realize, oh, he was just trying to be helpful and kind of, broaden our perspective.
Yeah, I mean, beautiful. And Chingo, one of the problems we have in the state of Texas, as you know, we're quickly approaching Tejanos, Mexicanos, descendants of Mexicanos like yourself, and a lot of us immigrants, but the majority of the population in the state of Texas is of Mexican descent. I always tell people how lucky we are to have Mexico as our neighbor because of the values of the people and the immigrants that come over. But the issue, Chingo, is how do you get our immigrant community, our Tejano community, our Hispanic community to participate in the political process? What do you tell people your age, your generation? Because, too many times I hear this all the time from Latinos. Oh, the Republicans aren't giving us anything, or the government isn't giving us anything. We don't need to be given anything. We need to take it, right? We want to get involved. We don't like the way the governor, the lieutenant governor, or the attorney general, or your state representative is acting. Run for office yourself. Run as a precinct chairman in your party, but voice your opinion, get involved. So what do you tell your generation to get involved in the political process? Because at the end of the day, it affects your children, and it's going to affect your grandchildren, and it affects my family. What do you tell them?
Uh, well, I think this year it did a great job of exposing the amount of corruption, the amount of power that a lot of our local representatives have over our daily lives. I have a lot of friends that live in blue states, such as California. They're not allowed to go to the gym. They were just now allowed to get a haircut. They can't eat a cheeseburger in a patio outside of a restaurant. I think they reversed that now, but a lot of people are blind and they don't see, wow, look at Texas and Florida. Like, look at our economies, look at our freedoms. They don't really draw the distinction. They'll just be like, what? It has nothing to do with Governor Newsom and Mayor Garcetti. It has nothing to do with blue and red and policies. It's just, they're trying to keep us safe. It's for our safety.
Mm-hmm.
And it's better if we don't go to work. And it's better that we just hope for some UBI and things like that. So to answer your question, I would say it's a two-part deal. Number one, I would like to show my audience the power of propaganda, the power of the media, the power of persuasion. This year, a lot of people are very hypnotized. Hard to, red pill people or get them to snap out of the matrix, the hypnotism. So that's one thing. Is just have a healthy dose of skepticism when you look at biased newspapers and things like that. Number two, I believe that maybe our Latino leaders should be demanding. For example, Ice Cube caught a lot of flack. Ice Cube, the rapper, actor, producer, he had a meeting. Well, he attempted to have a meeting with both parties to have a, quote, contract with Black America. And there was basically a list of demands, economic types of things. Well, Trump said, hey, I have the platinum plan, which was $500 billion. And they actually heard him out and met with him. I think Biden and the Democrats were like, we don't have time to meet with you at the moment. So I made the point on my social media. I asked my fans, like, hey, wouldn't it be nice if 4 years from now, maybe we actually negotiate this time? Maybe actually we we have some leverage. Maybe we have a list of demands. Maybe somebody that represents us meets with both parties just to see, what we can get out of it. But instead, what Latino Hollywood does is they just rather be cheerleaders for the Democrat Party, and they rather host Zooms for their candidates, and they have Cardi B interviewing Biden, and I don't want to just call out a whole bunch of Latino entertainers, but the people know that it's like they're really just being cheerleaders. Hollywood is just, they just fit this narrative that, it's all about the Democrats and Orange Man bad. So we'll see what happens. It might be a roller coaster these next 4 years, but we'll see what happens.
Chingo, tell us about your new podcast. And I've been listening to your podcast. It's very entertaining, and you say all of these things that you're saying now. Tell us about what you talk about the immigrants, the illegal immigrants, and how the new administration can, make it easy for everybody to come to this country without rules.
Well, my podcast is called Red Pill Tamales.
Mm-hmm.
And the red pill just signifies kind of like the movie Matrix, which is like, when you take the red pill, it's like you're going to be no longer blind and you'll start to see a little bit more, right? So it's a podcast that we do like an episode or two every week. And our goal is to just make the political discussion for, Latinos a little bit more robust, because for the longest, it's just been Democrats are for la raza, Democrats are for la raza, Democrats are the party of the people, Democrats are the diverse ones, they're the empathetic ones. And it's just a narrative, because last time I checked, Joe Biden still has kids in cages.
Which Obama built.
Yes, they built the cages, and now it's about to be his second administration of him having kids in cages. So, unfortunately, Trump got all the blame. But from what I'm seeing, Biden is building more, or I think they're calling them overflow facilities, which they may still have cages in them, unfortunately. But, we try to call out a lot of the hypocrisy and just pinpoint to people that, sometimes political parties talk a really good game. And a lot of times it's just talk. It's just to get elected. And then after that, a bunch of executive orders, and yet we still have kids in cages.
So Chingo, I don't know if you know, I mean, I'm obviously much older than you, but when I joined the Air Force out of high school in 1976, I was stationed at a place called Laughlin Air Force Base in Del Rio, Texas, which, as you know, is right across the river, Rio Grande, from Acuña, Mexico, which is the state of Coahuila. And I have been going out there every weekend, and back in the 70s, we didn't have border security. So people were free to come over, and nobody said anything because, of course, we needed the cheap labor. But, this year I wanted to make a comment because I think it's timely, and I want your opinion of it. Down in our border counties, in April of last year, I predicted that Texas Tejanos, the Mexican-American community, would save the state of Texas. And what I mean by that is that Tejanos would start voting more conservative. 3 things that I think the Democrats did. One, they started to trash law enforcement, right? And number 2, they started to trash our United States Armed Forces, the military. And number 3, they started to trash Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, which is ICE agents. As you know, down in the valley, a lot of our young kids are joining law enforcement. If you go down there, DPS is almost all Latino. If you go down there, and I know you know this because you talk about it on your YouTube, when you're stopped at an immigration checkpoint, it's a Mexican American asking us where we're from. Are we U.S. citizens? And finally, the military. A huge number of young Latinos, Tejanos, Mexican Americans have contributed to every battle in this country. So the Democrats were trashing ICE. Our own county judge here in Harris County was downtown Houston parading with a banner that says abolish ICE. And you're absolutely correct. I think you mentioned this earlier. I heard it somewhere. Undocumented illegal immigration, because we're all for legal immigration, but illegal immigration hurts our communities and communities of color. Not only does it hurt La Raza, but it hurts the African American community, because undocumented aliens from Guatemala and El Salvador are going to work for a lot lower wage. And people were wondering, well, Trump was terrible on Twitter, but Mexicans and Latinos and Tejanos loved him. Yeah, because he was talking about making Americans, American families, and that includes you, Chingo. You're an American, I'm an American, and Andrea's an American, even though we're either children of immigrants or immigrants. It helps us economically. And so do you agree that the left and the media gave us a big present by trashing military, ICE, and law enforcement?
Well, I'm not too sure. I haven't spent a lot of time in the Valley this year, but I can imagine. From what I heard, you're absolutely right. From what I heard, Trump was very, very strong down in the Rio Grande Valley.
He was.
I'm not sure what all variables played a role, but I think the anti-police rhetoric was just it was just counterproductive. And as you see, once they started noticing that it was affecting them in the polls, affecting the Democrat Party, that's when they tried to spin it and try to. I mean, they didn't like start locking up Antifa or anything. They didn't let the police do their job, but they tried to ease up on the rhetoric. And I would think to myself when all that was happening, I was like, why aren't more people sticking up for the police? I was like, I get it. Like, I come from the hip hop scene. I'm not 21 anymore. I'm 41. But I understand how maybe a lot of these rappers, we try to have this tough guy image, and it's not really cool to, hang with police and all this kind of stuff. But let's keep it real. Let's be honest. Let's be transparent. Nobody wants to raise their kids around a whole bunch of crime and drug dealing and nonsense. Like, I think it just goes back to politicians being in cahoots with the media and spewing whatever kind of rhetoric they think is going to help them get elected, whether they truly believe it or not. So, yeah, I thought the whole like defund the police thing was just very, very, problematic, as they say.
Chingo, you start the show talking about like how you grow up and with the mentality that you grew up because they were feeding you with that. And then all of a sudden, a year and a half or 2 years ago, you change your mentality because you start going deep on that and educate yourself and see the reality. What we can tell the parents and the kids and the people that are watching us right now and the community to start open their eyes as seeing the reality as you saw, because we know in the education system that we have right now, what the kids get, it's not the real life.
So you're saying, how can we
educate our community to open their eyes and to see what is the reality and not just keep feeding them what the system of education that we have is giving them?
Yes, it's very, very difficult to go against this culture war, where you go into Target and all the books that they're selling you are all about, minorities are victims. It's all the white man's fault. So it's like everywhere you look, if you watch late night TV, you'll see these late night comedians, Jimmy Kimmel or Trevor Noah and these people, and they're just basically trashing conservatives, praising this extreme left type of point of view. And, it gets very strange because now I look at it like, Jimmy Kimmel, what are you talking about? Like, this dude's defending, my opinion of comedians is we're supposed to be holding truth to power, punching up, as they say. But Jimmy Kimmel gets on TV and he's just defending Wall Street. He's defending the status quo. He's just regurgitating the official narrative. And it's getting to the point where, it's a very crazy time because it's getting to the point where people have to be very careful about what opinions they express publicly, because you have cancel culture. People lose sponsorships left and right. These big corporations are choosing sides. And the minute that they have an endorsement for a conservative, they drop them like a hot potato, because this narrative that anything that's on the right, anything that's conservative, anything that's Republican or Trump supporter somehow equals hate, racism, white supremacy, and domestic terrorism. And to me, it's like, come on, man, that is a reach. Like, you are really reaching, trying to lump everyone together and paint us all with this broad brush. So I think it's going to be very, very difficult. However, we need to just stand strong and keep behaving in a way that makes people say, you know what, these sound like reasonable people. Like, I really don't think Chingo's a white supremacist.
Chingo, one of the biggest concerns for us as a political action committee is the quality of education. Andrea was just talking about that. And here in Houston, we have the third largest school district in the United States. Sadly, a overwhelming number of young kids that are entering high school today will not graduate in 4 years. I don't know if that's 33%, 40%, or half the freshman class, but most of them are Latinos. And so what is your message to young people today about education? Because too much of our immigrant culture, my parents they didn't have college degrees. I was the only one in my family to get a college degree. But what's your message about staying in school and acquiring a quality education? And how do we break this dominance of what Andrea was talking about, the messaging in our schools? And, I know you went to Trinity University, but even in our system of higher education, the left has infiltrated not only the media, which you talk about, and entertainment, which you're in, but also education, the editorial boardrooms. So one, what is your message to young people about acquiring an education and moving on to higher education or technical school, whatever they want to do? And number two, what do we tell our community? How do we fix our education system so our children will graduate?
Okay, so the first thing I would tell to any youngsters that might stumble across this clip is we have to make sure that we have a better life strategy. So that's going to involve getting a technical or trade type of education, meaning a useful skill. I went to Trinity, and I'm not going to say I was indoctrinated with these leftist ideas, but they did try to make me a sociology major. I don't know, maybe they just assumed, like, Mexican kid from the hood. He'd so the main thing I want to really emphasize for the next generation is strategy, strategy, strategy. Don't play the victim. Have a diverse group of friends. Make some conservative friends. Make some Republican friends. Everyone that I've met from the Republican or conservative side have been very, very helpful, super friendly. I mean, some of the best people you'll ever find. If you have a business idea, they want to know how they can support you. They might connect you with a distributor. They might become your biggest promoter or customer. So a better life strategy. Don't play the victim. And your second question was, how do we what was the thing about education?
Yeah, how do we as a community, particularly here in Houston, improve the quality of education? What do you tell the Latino community that doesn't go to PTA meetings, that doesn't help their children? And I understand the economic, because I know that when you went into Trinity, you had to take an SAT or the ACT as I did. And so a lot of our immigrant communities don't have the vocabulary skills to do well on the SAT and ACT and college admission essays and whatnot. But more basic than that, Chingo, is the quality of our education, our public education. How do we, as a majority in Houston now, the Latino community is a majority, how do we improve the quality of public education in Houston?
That is a great question. Obviously, it's going to have to start at home. I think from a parental standpoint, we're going to have to really look into what they're teaching our kids at these schools. And I'm hearing a lot about the teachers' unions and how, the idea of school choice where, I live in Third Ward. So I can only imagine how some parents might think, I wonder if a school across town might be teaching these kids better. And, you know, I'm still learning about the school choice thing, but from what I understand, it's like you can take the tax money that is assigned for your child, and then you can choose to move them to a different school, which from my experience, it's night and day. You could be in the same school district, you could be in the same area, but transferring your kid from one high school to the next can make a huge difference. Where one high school might have like a daycare for all the, people, the students that are pregnant, things like that, whereas the other students have access to just more amenities and you know you might see more military recruitment at one. You might see more like after school soccer programs at the other. So, you know, I think that if we're going to talk about things like systemic racism or anything like that, I think the biggest proponent of that is our educational system, where it's kind of not equal all the time. So I think it's going to really be up to the parents and unfortunately sometimes the students themselves to really assess, all right, could I be challenged more? And it's really hard for a youngster to do that, right? Because I got the opportunity to go to a prep school in ninth grade out of state. And that's when I really started to notice, okay, this is a lot harder. I don't really have the study habits that these other kids have. I'm not familiar with this study hall type of concept. So I really had to adjust. And I really saw the disparity between, just a regular, whatever, public school education and another education where the kids have been groomed as youngsters to have study habits, to be better students, and to understand things like, look, you're gonna have to take the SAT. There's classes, there's prep courses, and a lot of times you tell your parents about this stuff, and it's like, ¿qué, cuánto cuesta, o pa qué, o cómo?
Well, Chingo, definitely education is the key, and that reflect on the lack of representation in our community. And I was reading an article that they were interviewing you, and they asked you about that, and you were answering saying like we still have in Texas small towns when the 90% of the population are Latinos, and still we don't have representation. How we can improve that?
Well, I think shows like this one that are on the internet where we're able to get on a webcam and just have a discussion. I think the tools that are out right now, like social media, YouTube. Obviously, conservative voices are being suppressed, um, but like I said, it just takes one viral clip. You know, that's my theory. It's just like, how can I communicate more clearly so that people can get a sense of I'm not gaining anything promoting, Republican or conservative or just saying, hey, we have to really start holding these politicians accountable. Like, if anything, I took a risk. I could have I could have said, oh, I was just kidding. I didn't really vote for Trump. Ha ha ha. Let me keep my and just fall in line and be quiet and become a cheerleader for the Democrat Party like all my other Latino celebrity peers. Um, so, if anything, some people feel that like my credibility might have taken a hit because, oh, you're Mr. They Can't Deport Us All. And you were on Netflix with a show called They Can't Deport Us All. And now you're on the side of the Republicans. And how dare you? But my thing is this, if anything, that should give me more credibility because the easy thing is to be consistent with how you thought when you were 21. I'm 41. I have two daughters with a third daughter on the way. And I
Congratulations.
thank you. I support the police. I support our military, our armed forces. The things that I worry about now are like, hey, what is China up to? And
Exactly.
how much influence do they have with a lot of these politicians or Congress people or journalists and media and those are the things that I'm dubious about. I'm concerned with.
Chingo, first of all, I have so much respect for you for speaking up, and one of the things I always say is that today's liberal young people are tomorrow's conservatives, and that's why we work so hard. But you talk about China, you're just absolutely spot on. A lot of our gente don't understand. They hear China, but what does that mean? What does that mean when they manufacture products so cheaply because they don't hardly pay their people, and then they flood those products here, putting Americans out of work? That affects our communities, right? Manufacturing, and people still don't understand. While Trump's tweets may not have been very popular. I mean, they were, people followed him, but it made people mad. He was fighting for the average Americano. No, that means us too. We may be Cuban, Colombian, descendant of Mexicans, but we're all Americans. We're citizens of this country. And Trump was fighting for a concept. And what is the first thing this new administration does is they high five China. We're back in bed with them. It's an experiment that really has been detrimental from an economic perspective for the United States. And not only that, Chingo, if you're going to have a partner in business, I know that, for example, you have a relationship with Asylum Records. There's a matter of trust, right? Obviously, you trust them, and they trusted you, and you guys have a contract, and you both abide by your contract. But with our relationship with China, when it came to this novel coronavirus back in January of 2019, they sat on the data. They didn't share it with the world, Chingo. If they'd have been honest and transparent and warned the world, all the brilliant scientists of the world could have come up with a vaccine early enough to avoid the pandemic. So what I'm saying to you is, I love your comment because you think so far outside the box. You bring up China, which is exactly right. We have a partner that's not playing by the rules, and it affects our communities. And so congratulations for you, por tener las ganas, primero que todo, for talking about difficult issues, but then for also being a thinker. I mean, you're not just talking immigration or raza or, racism or affirmative action. You're thinking about, your children's future, your two little girls and your yet to be born child. What's their world going to be like? Are they going to be working for Chinese? So nothing against the Chinese. We love the Chinese, especially our Chinese immigrant community, but China's not a fair player. And it's hurting us. And so the things that you talk about, illegal immigration, that hurts us, our country, our sovereignty, and our community. Unfair play by our trading partners like China is unfair. Lack of participation by the Latino community in the political process in the state of Texas hurts our community because we have no voice, no representation. Our education system is falling apart. Our kids are failing in school. We have, we're dropping like flies with COVID-19 because we have, as you know, comorbidities. That is, we have a high incidence of diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, and that's killing our Latino community and the African American community. So there are a lot of issues, but I am just proud of you as a Houstonian, as the son of an immigrant, as an artist, for taking up the important issues. And it's not just regurgitating the liberal left crap we see in the media. It's, you are genuine. It's from the heart. And you do it at great risk to you, your family, and your livelihood because it's obviously these are principles you believe in.
Yes, my opinion on China is that it will be wise for the United States to decouple from China. It's a bad relationship. Every which way we interact with China, somehow, some way, Americans die. And now, for example,
And lose.
yes, for example, fentanyl comes from where? China. And as you mentioned, the World Health Organization and just we couldn't get any transparency. We couldn't get proper information. The data was all wrong on purpose. And it's almost as if, I speculate that maybe because we're economic competitors, it was in their best interest to take advantage of this crisis. And long story short, they were just giving us false information, disinformation, misinformation, everything. So there's so many ways besides them stealing our intellectual property, our tech, uh, sending fentanyl to a cartel in Mexico up the border. It kills tens of thousands in America. It's an opioid crisis, and it's not like it's some gangsters in China doing it. It's like it's their government. Nothing, a dollar isn't made and nothing is exported without them being privy to what's going on. So I highly recommend that we view the world through a filter or a lens of, hmm, what is this executive order? How could this executive order benefit China? Why is Biden wanting to ban the term China virus? Why are we no longer allowed to call it that? There's a lot of propaganda and things of that nature. Obviously, they have plants and they have
Yeah, because we've called it the Spanish flu, the Hong Kong flu.
Yeah.
We name where they originate from, and all of a sudden it was like when because Trump said it because it originated from China and Wuhan. All of a sudden, we can't talk about it. That's just absolutely ridiculous. You're 100% correct.
and I totally understand that we don't want any of our Chinese Americans to get any hate or disrespect. However, we're talking about the CCP. We're talking about a communist country that is not playing fair. As you said, the business metaphor. They breach contract when they have their when I think it's Huawei, when their tech companies want to set up antennas all over our nation. We have to remember that their tech companies are in essence a branch of their military.
Correct.
So I saw another thing that Trump banned Chinese companies to be involved in the United States power grid. However, Joe Biden administration rescinded that ban. So now we have the CCP involved in our U.S. power grid, very conveniently for them. So
Yeah, Chingo, I mean, you're absolutely correct. I'm going to let Andrea jump in because I'm hogging a lot of the time, but I just love the way you think. First of all, one of the first things that Joe Biden did, the Democrats, the liberal left, is they canceled the XL pipeline that was going to bring crude from Canada down to the refineries down along the Gulf Coast, which creates jobs for our communities, right? And number two, he suspended the exploration of oil and gas in federal lands, both onshore and offshore. That's going to kill counties like Starr County, which is overwhelmingly Latino. It's going to kill jobs. And three, you're absolutely correct. China just bought thousands of acres in Valverde County to install a wind farm, and we're going to the federal government's going to give them taxpayer subsidies to make sure that these alternative forms of fuel are profitable for the Chinese. Chingo, that makes no sense to me. We're killing American jobs, killing American technology to subsidize, iffy technology and foreign countries. I have no explanation for that, and I'm just so glad that you get it, you understand it, and Andrea, you want to ask a question? I know.
No, when we started the show, we were playing one of the clips that you have on YouTube, and unfortunately, the viewers couldn't hear the clip because I got texts that people saying that we couldn't hear the clip, and I wanted you to talk about that specific clip because you were saying. I'm not going to repeat the bad word, but you were saying, I cannot do the things that I do in this country if, people in Venezuela, in Cuba, I mean, why bring in all of those things that we're running away to this country? And that's what we want to prevent. So I wanted you to talk about that, the clip that we couldn't hear. And that's very powerful because, Orlando is from Cuba and we have a lot of people from Venezuela in this country running away from that country of the situation that they've been living for decades.
Well, I'm fascinated with how a country like Venezuela can go from being one of the richest in resources to what they're going through now, where their paper money isn't worth anything. People are trying to escape. You, in essence, have dictatorship and you have communism in disguise as socialism. So, obviously, the way it happened in Venezuela was Chavez did some things, I guess some socialism that some people liked, like, oh, he's going to give pensions and basically Social Security for the elderly. Oh, that's nice. They've never had that. And before you know it, they're bringing in lots of I guess Cuban expats or something. There's a thing in Russia's over there. So in essence, it's kind of like Cuban intelligence or something, Russian intelligence, and it's very scary. It is very, very scary. And I never thought that in the United States we would ever have to even worry about anything like that. But the way I look at the propaganda, the way I look at the media, official narratives, and things like that, it's very sophisticated the way they're doing it. I almost feel that our intelligence agencies that have in the past have they used to have to go into other countries to destabilize them, to make fake news about a person that's in office, so that we can put a regime that we're more friendly with. The way they got Gaddafi out, and just over and over again, whether it's going into Central America. I almost feel like those same weapons have been now weaponized against the American public, meaning the amount of fake news, the power of the media, the amount of brainwashing and programming, to the point where you tell the American public there's a thing called the Paris Climate Accord, and it sounds great because it's green and it's climate and it's an accord and it's Paris. It is as Orlando was saying, we're going to have to, if we're going from fuel vehicles to electric vehicles, all these lithium batteries are going to come from China. If we're going to build windmills everywhere, these jobs are going to other countries. So this Paris Climate Accord, it sounds nice, but it allows India and China to pollute the globe. Meanwhile, America's being overregulated, and our jobs are taking a hit. So, it's just I feel like it's just a culture war. It's a lot of propaganda and brainwashing to make people believe that, oh, Chingo, you're just mad that Trump lost. China's not a threat. These are our friends. Of course the World Health Organization is going to give us the best information. Trust the experts. Things like that.
Yeah, and Chingo, you're right on. I remember several years ago, there's a reporter for ABC affiliate here in Houston. I think Art Rascon was once sent to Nicaragua and did a report called "Children of the Dump."
Hello?
And can you hear me?
Hello?
Are we back on? Can
You hear us?
Okay, we may have lost him
Hello?
for some reason or another.
We
hear
can hear you.
Yeah,
we can hear you.
but he can't hear us. Anyway, well, look, we're down to.
No, but I want him to talk about his shows.
Well, obviously
You
he
hear us,
can't hear
Chingo?
us.
Chingo, hello.
So
Can you call us back? Let me.
yeah, Chingo, if you can hear us, you want to call back. But anyway, the point I was going to make is exactly what Chingo's talking about,
He's back.
because on his YouTube. The clip we played, he laments what Venezuela's going through, what Cuba's going through.
I think he's back, Orlando.
And I think some years ago, ABC, Channel 13, one of their reporters did a report called Children of the Dump in Nicaragua. And, our community, we have economic choices. We can shop at H-E-B, we can shop at Randall's, we can shop at, Kroger, we can shop at a multiplicity of stores. When our children get sick, if you're here in Houston, you can go to Texas Children's Hospital, you can go to Memorial Children's Hospital. You have choices. But when the government takes over, there's only one place you're going to be able to shop. Like in Cuba, you have to go to a government store. Unfortunately, in Venezuela, there is no food. And, when your children get sick, you guys that like the liberal left message so much, you're going to go to a government hospital. You're going to wait in line to get government doctors. And we don't want that. We like the free market. We like to participate and be able to make our own decisions with I mean, we don't want healthcare to be so expensive nobody gets it, but we want to make our own decisions. We want to pick our doctors, our hospitals, our doctors. In education, we want to pick what schools we go to, as Chingo was saying, with charter schools, public school choice, competition in school. So it sounds to me like Chingo is a free market, freedom-loving constitutionalist, which I respect because God knows we need those voices in our community. So, Chingo, are you back and can you hear us?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Sorry,
great.
Chingo, I wanted you to talk about your shows, and I was looking at your webpage, and you have shows coming up in Florida. Talk about those shows and when it's going to be in Houston, because I'm dying to see you live.
Awesome. So I will be in Naples, Florida, February 10th, and then we do West Palm Beach, February 11th. And the Houston Improv, that will be a weekend in September. So more details are coming on that. So we're just waiting for the world to open up in a safe way. Thanks to Operation Warp Speed, there's a vaccine. Now that Biden won, we're seeing a lot of restrictions magically being lifted in places like Chicago, New York, and Los Angeles and things like that. So it's a Biden miracle. And
yes. Thanks to the liberal left, it's all under repair.
Yeah, they unfortunately they played a political game with the American people. They didn't take into consideration how, as humans, we take pride in our work. We need a purpose, we need hope, and they literally. I mean, I understand the reasoning behind it. We're in a global pandemic, and it's for our safety and this and that. Unfortunately, we're here a year later. A lot of people are depressed. The suicide rate is up. There are many variables. Our kids' education really took a hit this year. I think a lot of kids se atrasaron. So we're looking forward to, the Freedom of Speech tour and taking a stance, drawing a line in the sand. And for those that are against cancel culture, these are my true fans, the people that we can disagree politically, but they still want to support, and they're not going to cheer on, a brown man being canceled.
Chingo, just a question about your business. Now that you have the pandemic, and so obviously, comedy clubs are being restricted and your live performances are somewhat restricted. What are you working on? Are you working on developing your material for stage, or are you working on more of as a composer and your music? How does Chingo spend most of his day?
Great question. So all of my media stuff, we have like a couple days out of the week where we dedicate to podcasting and creating that of content so we can communicate with the fans. We also spend a few hours every week, like one day out of the week, just knocking out a whole bunch of TikToks just to be able to reach people. However, I am wanting to diversify, and I'm spending time on some other businesses and projects that do not have my name or face anywhere near or on it, for cancel purposes. And, the future of live entertainment, I'm not too sure where that's headed, only because we're hearing so much talk about, the new normal and new variants and Bill Gates telling us, don't get too comfortable and things like that. So it's we're a little uneasy about how the world going to be from now on. But, one thing for sure is we still have freedom of speech. We still have to make our voices be heard. And like I said, it's going to be a testament to my true fans.
Chingo, well, first of all, it's an honor meeting you. I'm sorry that we had to do it online. I hope that I can have a tamale. I'll bring a Cuban tamale. You can bring a Mexican tamale.
I bring arepas.
I'll bring
arepas.
I'll bring a Cuba Libre. You can bring tequila, whatever. And I'd love to meet you, but I want to thank you for sharing the entire hour with us in our community. I want to thank you for being a Tejano that is willing to talk about your values, what you feel in your heart, and which, in my opinion, represents the vast number of Mexican-American immigrants. We're all immigrants here. we just want everybody to follow the rules, right? We can't let the whole world in, Chingo, but if you want to be an immigrant, follow the rules, respect our Constitution, respect our police. Let's get our children educated, and most of all, let's hear the Latino voice in Texas. So we're out of time, but it's been a real honor to have Chingo, and congratulations, Andrea, for having him on.
Oh, no, thank you, Chingo, for giving me the opportunity. I was just begging him on Instagram. And I want to finalize with you with one of your TikToks that you were making, and I love it. And what is the face when you said what my face when I know the whole country is shut down, but then my face when I know I live in Texas. So I wanted you ended up with that. Make us laugh a little bit.
Well, yeah, make sure you follow me on TikTok. It's real Chingo Bling. Follow me on Facebook, on Instagram. And, like you read the clip, I'm proud to be, from Texas. I'm proud to be American. And let's not shy away from our values. And I'm going to make a prediction that there will be a trend in the next few years where you're going to see more and more Latino conservatives coming out of woodwork and people coming on over to the dark side, as they say, because culturally there will be a shift. We're going to hit a tipping point, critical mass, where each one teach one, people start to kind of wake each other up. And I'd love to continue the conversation. I'd love to meet you guys. I'll bring the tamales, and hopefully you guys can be a guest on my podcast as well.
Yeah. Oh, my God. We will love it.
Thank you, Chingo. God bless you and
Awesome.
your family.
Thank
the
you
very
so
best
much.
to your wife who's expectant, and hopefully we'll get to see you soon. Thanks a lot.
Gracias, Chingo.
Adios. Bye-bye.
All right. That concludes our program. We're a little over an hour. Thank you for putting up with our technical glitches at the beginning, but it's technology. We have live studio. We have people calling in. We have videos that we've got to mount. We got people sending us messages on Facebook.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on. We appreciate your patience. But I thought it was a magnificent program. I think Chingo's a great entertainer.
Oh,
He's the pride
amazing.
of Houston. I think he's a future leader in the conservative movement, which all of us Tejanos, immigrants, Mexicanos, Colombianos, Puerto Ricanos, we're all conservative. We don't, this stuff we're hearing from, people like Francis O'Rourke. That's just crazy.
That's
anyway,
crazy. I love it. I love Chingo. I love this program, and hopefully we can meet him in person, and hopefully we can bring him part of the family of the Texas Latino Conservatives. Well, thank you so much for watching us. Muchas gracias por habernos visto y estado con nosotros y participado. Tuvimos muchísima participación de todos ustedes. Gracias, y nos vemos el próximo miércoles con más de Texas Latino Conservatives TLC Live.
hasta la semana que viene. Que Dios los bendiga. Hasta
Nos
luego.
vemos. Chao, chao.